Hi, this is Sundbom, and this is my oral presentation for my doctoral dossier for the Instructional Systems Design and Technology program at Sam Houston State University. The farther I went, the more confident I became, and that's very much how I feel about this program. A little bit about me. My name is Sundbom, and I live in Eastern North Carolina. I work at North Carolina Wesleyan College, where I am the only instructional technologist on campus. I enjoy traveling and hanging out with my family and friends. I live on a small farm with goats and chickens, and I am 43 years old. I've never been out of the country, and I just got back from New York City, so we'll talk a little bit about that. I have a lot of interests, including digital competency, universal design for learning, usability, games and learning, gamification, competition, social learning, distance ed, and so on and so forth. I didn't choose my dissertation topic early on, which was contrary to all the advice that everybody gave me. I thought I had it. I thought I wanted to do digital competency and computer literacy, and I researched it for 6 months in Dr. Cooper's class, and I decided that that was definitely not the topic for me for several years. And then I researched video for a little while, and universal design for learning, and so on and so forth. I don't feel like any of it was a waste of time. I feel like all of those things are very important, both in my dissertation research and in my job. Every day I use ideas that I've learned about distance education or things that I've learned about universal design for learning in order to be a better service person for my job. I also spent 20 years in retail and customer service, so I bring all of that into play too. I think it's really important to take all of your talents and all of the things that you've learned and mold them together to make a complete person and a complete scholar. I'd like to start off by talking about how I've grown as a person and a scholar. I myself have suffered from imposter syndrome periodically throughout my career, and even as a goat farmer. I know it sounds silly, but you have feelings that you're not good enough and always striving to be the best. And I'm a little bit of a perfectionist, so I'm not happy and things are perfect. But unfortunately, they're never perfect, are they? This is a really important topic in education. I think that a lot of people experience these things, whether it's poor self-esteem or being a perfectionist, or an anxiety about doing your best. And a lot of people who are trying to pursue scholarly endeavors and who are trying to make themselves a better person are a lot of times too hard on themselves. I even see it in the undergrad students at my school, and I'm happy to say that I've gotten a little bit further past it. And I think that this program and, just age and experience has helped me to do so. But I wanted to bring it up because I think it's really important, and I think that it's not addressed enough in education. And I think that students need to know, their options, and they need to know that they're worth something, because it can be stressful, and especially for undergraduate students, they're away from home for the first time. They're not around their parents or their family structures or whatever the case may be, and they're struggling. They don't know how to handle things yet. So that's a very important concept. So I'm excited to bring it up and bring it to the table, and add that I've grown and I feel more able to better help the people that I work with. I have also changed my way of thinking in the program. I'm able to better connect scholarly ideas with my experience and outside of school activities. I think people are very, very important, and collaboration is important. The internet has done a great job in connecting people, allowing for online learning and virtual teams, and it's definitely something that has happened to be able to harness the power of technology to better the world. And I greatly appreciate that, both as a student and a researcher and a parent. So one of the things that I'm happy about at this point is my current status as an emerging VR researcher working with a global team. If you haven't read the book Ready Player One by Ernest Cline, I highly suggest it. It talks about the future, virtual reality, gamification, motivation, learning, and a lot of other things. One of the quotes that really affected me is, "I didn't think anyone would anticipate this move because it was so clearly insane." Sometimes I feel like that about what I'm doing, but I'm very excited for the future. After we submitted our Dossier website, we were sent questions by our committee, the first of which is, discuss the long-range goals that you've identified in your dossier. What competencies have you acquired to support their acquisition and how? And what competencies do you still need to acquire to reach these goals? And what is your plan for acquisition? My long-range goals are to research immersive language acquisition using virtual reality with haptic technology in our team that I will speak about a little bit later. I continue to support educational opportunities in my community, including my work with the 4-H and my work on my family farm, teaching about where food comes from and even technology. I'm a club leader with the 4-H, and I like to work through our family farm to perform outreach to teach primarily youth about animals and agriculture. I would like to also develop more intentional methods for outreach by publicly teaching instructional technology. My family farm, started by my mother, whose nickname is Bear, is called Paradise, and we're committed to educating and empowering our youth through compassionate work with livestock and animals in teaching animal husbandry, care, business practices, technology, and other outreach items to our community. I also judge educational games for the Serious Play Conference each year and plan to do so this year. I'm excited to work with our immersive learning team, 3 of whom are on the team from our cohort, and we are interested in helping other students in instructional systems design and technology if they would like to join that team. Scholarship competencies for the program that I have met are the ability to synthesize previous research and collaborating on a team to achieve common goals. The competencies that are still in progress are addressing needed research in the field and analyzing that research. I am still working on the research for my dissertation proposal, and I plan to do a pilot study in the spring of 2020. Learning design competencies have been met because I had a very strong foundation of instructional design knowledge from my master's degree program and also working as an instructional technologist at North Carolina Wesleyan. Those competencies include development of instruction using researched framework, sustainability of learning design, and delivering solutions to address institutional needs. I also believe I've met the needed service competencies because I am dedicated to helping others in a scholarly way, whether that is through work with youth, work through my job at North Carolina Wesleyan, or even helping other students in the program at Sam Houston. I'd like to speak for a moment of the power of immersive virtual reality in learning. I want to give an example and give you a little mini tour of my week in New York City. We left Sunday morning, drove to New York, spent 3 days, and then came back. 60,000 steps, and a couple $100 later, we came home. We had learned a lot, but we didn't even break the surface of all of the fun things you can do in New York. My point is, virtual reality has the power to bring you in an immersive environment to many things that you probably would not get to experience otherwise. After all, there's so many great things to see in the world, and there's no way you can get there to all of them. So, immersive VR is something that allows us to learn through an immersive experience, and it's a pretty new technology that's just becoming available to the general public. So I want to tell you a little bit about things we did in the Big Apple. Monday, we figured out how to ride the subway, visited Times Square, went to the BT21 store to buy K-pop merchandise, and went to Central Park. Wednesday, we went to Koreatown, saw Super M in concert, and tried New York pizza. Wednesday, we went to the Museum of Modern Art, visited New York University, which was the first of many college tour stops for my niece Berlin, tried a pastry in Greenwich Village, had a potato knish and roasted chestnuts from a street vendor, and took a very, very brief moment in Chinatown. There were many things that we were not able to do in the Big Apple while we were there. We didn't see the Brooklyn Bridge, the Guggenheim, or the Statue of Liberty. We also didn't get to go to the 9/11 Memorial, the National Museum of Immigration, or the Empire State Building. Several of these places are available to visit through virtual reality in an immersive experience. This is why I love VR, because it provides an experiential aspect of learning that you can't get simply through the internet or a textbook. Until we're able to visit all of the places in the world, it's very nice to be able to view them in 360 degrees with sight and sound and possibly haptic technology. So until we're able to visit a place, I know it's second best, but it's pretty cool that we can allow learning through these immersive environments. The other thing is that I haven't researched it very much, but the idea of touch haptics helping students and learners to remember things more easily and connect those brain functions for memory. This past summer, I went to the Serious Play Conference, which was the third year that I've been attending and the second year that I've been a judge for the Serious Play digital games. While I was there, I met a couple of people who provided a really interesting presentation who said they were looking for partnerships to do research with virtual reality. They develop games for the Oculus Go and the Oculus Quest. The Oculus Quest has handheld haptic touch elements which can be used to hold things, pick them up in VR and activities like that. So I called them in September and they were very interested to create an immersive virtual reality language acquisition research sandbox, which basically means they're going to develop games or pieces of games and we can use those to research to see whether or not immersive VR is effective as a learning tool in comparison with either traditional methods or, in the case of their game Cold Case, whether simply the game or the immersive experience is more effective. One of the most exciting things about this team that we've created is that it's going to be sustainable going forward because it is open source technology and it will be available for students or researchers to use to try to answer questions about language learning with haptic virtual reality. I foresee using this in the future at my own institution after I get my doctoral degree, or Sam Houston State University students being able to use it to perform research or, practice coding or any variety of things. The other thing is that there's a lot of people who learn really well through an immersive learning environment that may have a disability or something like that. So it's got a great opportunity to help a lot of people in the future, and I'm really excited to be a part of this team. This global team is located across the world. I'm in Eastern North Carolina, of course. Lori's in Texas. Abdi is in Washington, D.C. We are willing to accept other students if they want to do immersive VR research. Vasco is in Portugal. And Emily, Javier, and Jim are in California. We want to explore whether vocabulary can be acquired more effectively and retained longer using VR, and whether that is different for persons with special needs, including those with dyslexia or those who are second language learners. We want to explore whether adding the sense of touch with haptic technology is an amplifier and whether using gesture inputs increases accessibility. Embodiment, embodied cognition, and spatial learning activities in VR as amplifiers, and whether the delight in the action and skills in a game environment that incorporate gestures and touch as an amplifier are effective. Question 2 from my committee is, let's assume that your VR research is successful and you showed that the VR group's performance was higher than the control group. What if your VR research results are the wow or novelty effect? Let's talk about defining the wow effect, the technology acceptance model, diffusion of innovations, recent trends, and how we can harness that wow. The wow effect can be observed between students, teachers, and technologies as a sociocultural phenomenon which occurs when students are exposed to a new learning technique or tool while teaching, which may be the cause of engagement rather than the topic. So, for example, they want to play with the technology but aren't necessarily concerned with the topic. First of all, understanding how change happens and how innovation works is really important in our field. I read the book Diffusion of Innovations by Everett Rogers back in 2014 for my master's degree program, and it had a great effect on understanding change and innovation and how ideas are spread among social cultures. When I was doing my research for this presentation, I ran across a paper that I wrote in Dr. Rice's class way back in fall of 2017, right after we first started the program. And I'd like to read a little bit because I think it says what I like to say about innovation and change agency and learning. Innovation does come with a price, and growth does not happen without growing pains. Thus, it should be a goal of the successful instructional designer to assist people in dealing with their hesitation, fear, and uncertainty. Everett Rogers discusses in his works the idea of the change agent, who is someone that helps to enact change in an effort to create more organization and efficiency to a community or organization. The change agent must identify and bridge the gaps between the current status and the potential status, all while dealing with potential denial, information overload, and breakdown of innovative motivation. Change agency is a scaffolded process that leads into independent learning involving many steps to effect adoption, which makes it a constructivist process. The learner does not suddenly adopt a change. They must go through the cycle of decision and evaluation to determine consequences and choose to make the change. Next, I'd like to talk about the technology acceptance model. This model indicates that perceived usefulness and ease of use directly affect adoption of a technology. So, if we're using the VR, the student needs to perceive that it is going to be useful to them, and it also has to be usable. Part of the immersive learning team's interests lie in usability of products. Since they are creating educational games, usability is a prime consideration. The technology acceptance model is simple and has been used in many studies since 2011. Finally, some recent research about getting past wow is presented by Danielle Harrow in 2016, who states it may be argued that the wow effect itself suggests a lack of focus on learning, but instead relies primarily on impression. She posits that we should create a learning ecology in a social classroom environment that uses technology to teach and affect learning in that way, rather than being impressed primarily by the tool. Finally, I think we should harness the power of wow to gain attention in learners. Gagne's 9 events of instruction are gaining attention, inform learners of objectives, stimulate recall of prior learning, present the content, provide learning guidance, elicit performance, provide feedback, and assess performance. Gaining attention is the very first step in the events of instruction. And sometimes a passion will start out with a wow. Here's a couple of examples. This is my daughter, Jolena, with her goats, Mini-Me, Tonka, and Yahtzee. Jolena bought Mini-Me pregnant, and the babies were delivered about 2 weeks later. At first glance, they're cute baby goats, so who wouldn't be impressed? And that's definitely a wow factor. However, this is a several-year endeavor on our family's part. We initially were impressed by the cute baby goats, but it's become a sustainable thing that we do. Jolena wants to be a livestock judge. She's on the judging team, and she shows her goats. She raises them. So there's the picture of her showing on the left and a picture of Tonka playing with her on the bottom. But my point is, the initial wow sometimes goes away, but sometimes it develops into a passion that may not be there before. Secondly, this is Logan. Logan wants to be an engineer. Here's a picture on the left of Logan and I in front of a beautiful cathedral in New York City. In the middle, she's holding a Sphero, which is commonly used in school environments to start kids to learn coding. On the right, Logan is demonstrating plate tectonics using her grilled cheese sandwich. Logan likes to take things apart and figure out how they work. You can see the wow factor in her eyes in this picture of her holding the Sphero that she is going to play with. She was very excited. But the initial wow factor is, hey, I get to play with a robot, but it starts them on a path to coding and understanding how it works. That begins as a young person that may or may not turn into a passion as they grow older and decide on their career paths. Information systems is a good field to study, and coding is a good skill to learn because we are having so many jobs in the future that are going to require those types of skills. So there's a good example of wow factor turning into a lifelong opportunity. Finally, here I am experimenting with virtual reality on the Google Cardboard in 2016. My very favorite app is Google Expeditions, which allow people to take field trips to places all over the world that they probably would not be able to see otherwise. That was the start of my personal wow of virtual reality. I still love expeditions, but I'm very excited to learn whether or not haptics has a real effect in working with learners. Working with Lori in our ISDT program has inspired me to research language through this media. We're very excited to work with Adtalem and the Immersive Language Research team because we feel this is a great opportunity to be able to help not only struggling learners, but all learners with the immersive environment. I want to thank you for taking the time to view my video presentation. I'm really excited about starting my dissertation in this program. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact me. I've included the link to my Dossier website in the comments section of the video. Thank you so much for the opportunity to present in video format to the committee.